4 past the hour. Welcome back to Morning Joe. With us now on the set, Senator Robert Menendez from New Jersey. Really good to have you on. I love this first topic, which is yours that you're bringing to the table. You want to cut tax breaks for the oil industry, and you're working on a bill. Are you going to get any support for this? And what are your plans?
We'll make it's $20 billion worth of tax breaks to an industry that in the first 3 months of this year made $20 billion in profit. I think it was a time in which we were actually looking for companies to do exploration, but it's past that time to be giving those types of tax breaks to an industry that would do this regardless what. And so when we give them tax breaks to prepare for drilling, when we give them tax breaks that permit them to take advantage of overseas tax advantages and deduct them here against the United States and a whole host of others, I think with what's happened in the Gulf and with record profits and with an industry that's going to go to pursue this anyhow, it's a good time for the American taxpayer to recoup about $20 billion.
It makes perfect sense to me, Pat Buchanan.
If 2/3 of our oil is coming in from abroad and a good slice of it from the Middle East, and we want to drill at home, why would you take away the incentives for the oil companies to drill in the United States?
I think, Pat, the oil companies have plenty of incentives. If $20 billion for the top 5 companies in 3 months of profits, not proceeds, profits, isn't an incentive without our $20 billion of tax breaks, I think that they have plenty of incentives to pursue it.
Do you think that will add to the oil production in the United States, taking away incentives?
And I think what it will add is to the American taxpayers, and the oil production will continue to be pursued by these companies who are going to continue to reap record profits whether or not you and I reach into our pocket and give them $20 billion.
John Howell.
Senator, you're head of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. Your party has just passed Wall Street reform that has angered a lot of people on Wall Street, traditionally a big source of money for Democratic candidates. What are you telling your candidates to say to the financial industry as they seek money for their election? What are they supposed to say to angry Wall Streeters from whom they would like to get contributions for this cycle?
Well, look, I think first and foremost, the reality is that the American people believe in a free market, but they don't believe in a free-for-all market. And what we had was a free-for-all market. That's not good for investors. It's not good for stockholders. It's not good for the economy. And so what we've tried to do is rein in the excesses, but permit a paradigm that permits growth to continue to take place and innovation to continue to take place. And so I simply say, look, we're the ones who had an economy, inherited an economy that was driven into the ditch by 8 years of excesses, 2 wars raging abroad unpaid for, tax cuts to a couple of $1 trillion unpaid for, a new entitlement program unpaid for. That's what we inherited, an economy that was on the verge of depression. We turned that around. We helped financial institutions be stabilized so they wouldn't collapse and create systemic consequences to our economy. I think we should get a lot of credit from that from Wall Street that ultimately derives the benefits, and they will make money. Once they know the rules of the game and they can have to proceed under those rules, they'll make money.
There's one area that is a real problem, and this whole thing was kicked off by the Congress literally mandating Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to make a huge number of loans into the people earning below the median income, particularly in the subprime area. That was what kicked off the whole thing. And the SEC giving the various financial firms the right to go from 12 times in terms of leverage to as much as 30 to 40 times. So this was not just something that Wall Street did. It was nourished and encouraged by the Congress and by the regulatory agencies. When are they going to get themselves in shape?
Well, first of all, I'm not quite sure I agree with you. Number one, maybe Alan Greenspan, who said everybody should have an adjustable rate mortgage, was a big part of it with the Federal Reserve. The reality is that Wall Street was well ahead of Fannie or Freddie. They were already making a whole host of securitizations of mortgages that they had no idea of what their real value was. And we went through credit default swaps and a whole host of instruments that got ahead of the regulators. You're right about one thing. The regulators were asleep at the switch. And what we need for having a market that really works is to have the regulators be the cop on the beat so everybody knows what's in and out of bounds.
Senator, before you go, political strategy, if I could, what's the plan or the strategy to combat Sarah Palin's impact on the potential outcome in the midterms, especially this Mama Grizzlies ad that she has that many think could be quite effective, whether you agree with it or not?
Well, look, I appreciate Sarah Palin helping us by having candidates that are rather extreme for their states. If she wants to continue to endorse candidates that are out of the mainstream in places like Arizona and Colorado, then let her continue to do so.
But if you look at places like South Carolina and others, she has been very helpful.
Well, South Carolina is not a place that we'd be playing in these races, so the reality is
but
that
you understand that
places,
she has an impact, that there might be something there, a force to be reckoned with?
I'm not worried about
Not
Sarah
so sure?
Palin. I'm happy that she's supporting candidates that are winning against the establishment and are out of the mainstream for the electorate in the general election.
Senator Menendez, thank you very much. Patrick McEnroe, next on Morning Joe.